What's up, guys? It's Reynad back with another update video for the Bazaar. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about this. Basically, every time I stream, people are asking questions about the game, which is, a great thing to hear. I'm glad you guys are as excited as I am and have some cool stuff to show you today. So last time we left it off, I talked a bit about the overall design philosophy and archetypes, and I also had a video that a lot of you guys liked about concept art decisions, kind of trying to figure out what the board, what the cards, what everything in the game should look like. So just been continuing on with that process. Game development's ahead of schedule. I have an early build that I can log into and start playing with just the basic mechanics and stuff. So everything's trucking along, which is awesome. Talks have been going really, really well with investors, so I think we'll have really good funding for the game, which will be awesome. So things are moving along full speed ahead, and I kind of wanted to follow up on that last couple of videos and show you guys some more stuff and kind of go over more of my thoughts as we kind of continue on with the process. So if you remember the last game board that I showed you guys in that video, I was talking about how I want the board to be reskinnable. One of the ways that this game makes money, because we're kind of revolutionizing the monetization system of card games, hopefully. One of the ways that we, monetize is by going a lot deeper with the cosmetics and making sure that the game board's more modular than it is in other card games. So I talked about how I wanted it split into two halves. And here's some of the first examples we had from a few weeks ago of boards that do that. So this game board, for example, is two themes. So the top half is jungle themed and the bottom half is pirate themed. Over here on the left, we have the neutral monsters, or rather in this example, it's one neutral monster, and then this is the neutral coin that you can buy to add to your deck. We have the two shops. This one only has 2 cards in it for whatever reason. You have your hero power thing on the left, and then the hand in between that and the portrait. I thought the portrait was a little too big on this. I thought that the corner things on the board might be a little bit too large as well. And the thing that really worried me as far as the UI goes is, well, what if you have like a 10 or a 20 card hand? Because this game doesn't really have hand size limits. So, if you do have a hand that has a certain amount of cards in it, you want to make sure that you can accommodate that, right? Right now we have 4 cards in hand, but what do we do when we get, 10? So we kind of need a plan there. The other thing that I thought could be a little bit improved here is maybe the hero power being closer to the portrait itself. The fact that it's kind of in a separate area makes them kind of disassociated, which isn't the end of the world. This might be the way we end up doing it, but just very small tweaks are kind of what we're looking at when we're getting to the more final design stages of the board. So yeah, moving forward, we had some other examples. We would put the neutral coin on the right. Here we have 2 monster stores on the left now. I was worried that having 2 monster stores would be too many piles on the board, but after looking at these kind of design concepts, I'm leaning towards going back to having 2 neutral monsters, which is a huge change for the game. It's way more options, because the neutral monsters are what either player can kill. Normally, you can only buy stuff from your own shop, but these neutral things both players can buy. So the neutral monsters are things you can really contest, because some of them have really good rewards, and you want to be the first person to kill them. Some of them have multiple stages of getting killed, so you want to make sure you kill them at the right time. So adding a second monster, a neutral monster, I think will really add a lot of depth to the gameplay and increase the amount of decisions we have. And I was worried it would be too messy for the UI, especially on phones, to include that. So again, I'm still on the fence about whether to have 2 or 1 of these, but after looking at the UI, it didn't look too daunting to have the extra monsters, so I put it back in there. The little spiky circle thing, I didn't like that as much as the little ball and chain here. I thought that was a little bit cooler. We'll kind of see what the best aesthetic fit is. One other option is that we reskin that based on the active player's side of the board. So maybe the borders around the neutral monsters are one of the things that get changed when you have the pirate board versus the jungle board. Maybe these would have green vines around them or something if it's from the jungle player's perspective. Again, these things in the corner would be playable with. You'll notice that one of the things I was unsure about in the last concept art phase was whether we should have physical decks or not to represent the deck and the discard pile. And the thing about the gameplay in a deck building game is you inevitably end up having to click on your deck and your discard pile and your opponent's deck and your opponent's discard pile, because you really need to keep track of who has what cards in what zones. So you really want these decks and discard piles to be accessible. You want it to be intuitive that that's what they are. So I think that the cosmetic board corner things will be basically the draw pile cosmetic, discard pile cosmetic. The other great benefit of having like a physical deck of cards represented here is that we can incorporate card backs on top of these as well. So it's something we can talk about a bit later. In this concept art, we have a hand of cards that is, a lot larger. This is sporting a lot more cards. Again, the hero power and the portrait are getting really far apart here. I don't know how it scales. Like, what if you have a 4-card hand? Do the cards just get bigger? Do they scale down? I think Magic Arena did a pretty good job of accommodating for large hand sizes, so we might do something similar to that. Keep in mind, all these things that I'm showing you, with the exception of like one of them, are going to be for the PC build. Something to keep in mind. I really like how the treasure chest looks here too for the neutral coin. But yeah, so moving on to other designs. On this one, we moved the hero portrait to the middle, which I really liked actually, because now it is next to the hero power. It's intuitive that they're associated with each other. The cards themselves are very small here. They're like very much at the bottom of the hand, which is, you know, I'd like them to be a little bit more visible. It feels a little bit less, it has like less soul, if that makes sense, when it's just like this clean rectangle line of options. When there's a bit of a curve to them, it feels like you're holding them in your hand more, and I think having that kind of feel is pretty important. This just seems kind of a little flat, I guess. But yeah, overall, not too many big changes. I do like how it looks when we have the centered heroes, though, personally. And again, just give me your guys' opinions here, because a lot of this stuff at this point is just subjective. It's just, you know, preference. Here we have like a little log that they're resting on. So now the monsters are reskinned for the pirate board. This log would only be on the pirate board that they're resting on. The corner things here are pretty large. We have a very big deck of cards, a big discard pile, 4 cards in the middle, really big icons on this one. This is one of like the earlier designs actually that we had. Here we tried flipping it. So you have the pirate on top, you have the jungle on the bottom. The thing that bugged me about this that I have the team looking into is the perspective. Because of the perspective of the active player, you kind of want the top stuff leaning back more, whereas here it looks like something's just off about the perspective. It's like I have a bird's eye view of the top two, but then the first ones are like leaning forward. So it's like the bottom half has the right perspective, but the top half doesn't. So it's a little bit jarring. So I think that's something we can improve there pretty easily. By the way, none of the art that we're showing, I don't own any of it. Don't sue me. This is just, you know, placeholder art for concept art stuff. So a couple more subtle changes, getting rid of cards in the middle. We're just basically trying like small little changes. Here's like, you know, bigger cards when maybe when you click on your hand, they all kind of pop out like that. You know, just experimenting with small changes. One thing that I'm not sure about here either is the dimensions of every card. So here it's a little bit stubbier than a normal playing card. It's not the usual 3.5 inch times whatever, which is, I don't know if I like that. I like standard sized cards. This one is a different dimension than this one. This one is like wider and this one is taller. So I don't know what level of consistency we want between the store card and the card in hand. That's another thing to consider though. Down to a 3-card hand, showing a bit of a glowing effect. Some people in the comments section, the last concept art YouTube video, mentioned that it should be clear what you can interact with and what you can't. And I agree that that's important. And that's why most cards, I think almost every element of the UI that you can interact with will have some sort of glow or outline. It's just not really represented in this concept art yet. We have like hovering over a card, we have hovering over hero power, we have prices on store cards now. I don't know if I like the tags really. They look a little bit dull. This one's just a little bit off screen, so I'm not a big fan of that, but it's another example of how you can make the neutral monsters look a little bit different. On to the next one. So what do we do here? Okay, so there was one person in the comments section. He said English wasn't his primary language, but he actually described it very well. Basically, he said that the stuff that you don't interact with on the UI should not be so vibrant and it shouldn't be so forward-facing, because it kind of distracts from the elements of the board that you can interact with. So what I had them try to do is dull the colors of just like the background stuff. So this is you can see kind of, this is like more vibrant colors. And here, kind of the background art, like the sand and the jungle, is a little bit less bright than these elements in front that you can interact with. Now it's like more clear what you can and can't click on. Here we have a curvy hand. I love this little pirate wheel here. You're theming the hand with the board now. It really makes you feel like, you know, these board reskins are worth spending money for because they're pretty damn cool. And, oh, we got a little parrot bro, got a little cannon or like a gun on the left here that I'm going to cover up, a little sword. This is pretty sweet. I really like the size of the corner parts now. They each have their own little fenced off area, so they're kind of interchangeable. You know, I envision a world where if I'm playing the jungle board, I can have the pirate ship if I want it there. I can have the parrot guy in the jungle board, for example. So you really want that level of customization. You want people to feel like the game is their own. And I think just making as much stuff modular as we can is going to help allow that to happen. So we got like a little, I don't even know what this is, but it's cool. It's like a little fish river thing. I don't know, a tarantula, a beehive, a little frog guy. Hopefully all of those can be clicked on and they hop around and stuff. Because at the end of the day, my greatest source of game development influence and inspiration is Spy Fox, Putt Putt, and Freddy Fish. You can click on everything in those games. Here we got a bit of a diamond thing. There's just different examples of like borders that you can have around the neutral stuff. We're back to pirates here. Now we have like little attack icons over the cards in the hand. Yeah, basically just tweaking like small different things here. We have swords now, prices, just trying to figure out what the right way to denote the cost of the cards in the store is. I think the tags are a little bit bland looking, but it might make more sense than like putting a yellow gold token on them. I don't want it to feel like they make you money, you know? So the tag might be the best way to do it. It's probably how you would put a price tag on something in a Bazaar as well. Moving on, we got, this is a pretty sweet board. Look at this. So we got the pirate thing going on. Again, my only issue with this board, if I had to name one, is that the hero power and the actual hero portrait are so far away from each other. Like, maybe that's okay. I mean, that aside, this is pretty sweet. We got masks up here in the top left. We got this little tiki tent thing with little lanterns. I mean, this board looks beautiful. It's supporting a lot of cards in hand, which is awesome. You can even compress those a little bit. If we do have to impose a hand size limit to the game, we can do that. Maybe it'll be like 20 cards or something so high that you almost never hit the limit, but it's very possible to do. That way, if you draw a card and your hand is full, it just goes straight to discard. Yeah, I got a little treasure map barrel thing. This board is just beautiful. I'm a big fan of how this one turned out. We have the little ball and chain here on the monsters. All of it thematically is a good fit. This up here feels like a jungle. This down here feels like a pirate board. Life is good. And yeah, I really think it's going in the right direction. This is one of the earlier builds. This one's actually unique because this one's a 4:3 ratio, unlike the other ones. It's one of the things Hearthstone did that the game development team pointed out to me is the game itself is pretty much always 4:3. And when you play on higher resolutions or stretched out resolutions, it just adds that blue crap to the side. It just adds stuff to the sides. And the reason that's so important is because if you have like a natural 4:3 ratio board, you can put it on things like iPads right away, which is why Hearthstone is able to do that so much sooner than they were able to do, you know, Android and things like that. So it's possible that we actually want to just design the game with a 4:3 board and then just add stuff onto the sides to accommodate for that. Because again, if there's one thing to learn from Fortnite, it's that cross-platform compatibility is rule number one in this day and age for a successful game. So I definitely want to put a priority on that. It does kind of compress everything, so it does make it a little bit tougher to like have a pretty like full screen thing like this. Just something to think about. Here we have zooming in on cards more. Now they have little cost icons on top, little attack icons. I like this. I think the attack icon should maybe be a little bit more vibrant, maybe a maroon colors, a little dull, but overall, visually, this one is very nice as well. This was earlier than that really nice build I showed you guys. Here are some examples of what do you have the cards look like when they zoom in? How do you have the text show up and all that? So first of all, I don't like them being stubby. I think it's just more natural to have the cards be a little bit taller. I just want like a natural playing card dimension, I think. And that's a very like subjective thing for me. I've played so many physical card games in my life that it's weird. This feels to me like less than a card because it is so stubby, if that makes sense. But yeah, we have the full art here. We have the important numbers on top. We have the text overlaid. And one thing to pay attention to here is we're putting a priority on having a place for the subtype of the card. So gameplay wise, every card in the game, or at least most of the cards in the game, or at least a lot of the cards in the game are going to have subtypes. So if I have like a weapon, it could be subtype ice, you know, and then there's cards that will scale based on how many ice cards you've played or something like that. So it's important for every card to have a subtype, not just the monsters, but also the items that you play, the spells that you cast. It's important to be able to build synergies between different subtypes. This will be how we denote that. Some sort of diamond thing on bottom, maybe in the middle. We'll figure it out. But I'm thinking the top middle one here is the best of the 6 presented options. Bottom left is okay too. Moving on, this is just an example of like some more close to finished art for an individual card that the team has made. The process of card illustrations has been a little bit different with this team than the other one I worked with. So they start off by sending sketches like these, which are black and white and very blobby. The last team I worked with did hard black outlines of sketches and then like pure white background, but this is more like the blob style of painting, at least in the early phases. So here's some like cool sketches. So it starts off by just like painting the general colory regions, and then you kind of approve. I basically either approve or say to change things about the sketch. And then after it's colorized and we move on to later stages, we can end up with, you know, more finalized art like this frost card or this minotaur horn. The lines aren't as sharp on the final product, but I do like aesthetically how this feels details and how it looks. So I think this is very nice. Just a couple examples of art we're working on. There's things in the game that'll be very common. All right, here's more sketches. There's got like a dragon thing. This is forbidden alchemy. It's like a hammer. A philosopher's stone here too. There's certain things in the game that are going to show up a lot. One example of this is like coins. Like every deck is going to start with a bunch of coins. The idea is you're this character in this interdimensional marketplace, and you're walking into the marketplace. And so what do you have with you when you get there at first? You're going to have some money. You're going to have like a couple little things specific to your class, and that's it. That's all you're going to start with. So every starting deck has a bunch of coins. The idea is these coins allow you to buy more cards, and over time the coins aren't as valuable, so you want to like remove them, or you want to upgrade them or whatever, or get like more valuable coins in your deck. We have to figure out, what does a coin look like? So I had a bunch of drafts for these. There's just like little small sketches. These aren't final or anything, but keep in mind the logo for the Bazaar has that little orange diamond thingy, a lot of these little triangles, and that was just a title concept for Max Hayes, our graphic designer, one of the best in the industry. Anyway, this development team took the idea of the Bazaar logo that we have, they took it, they ran with it, so now we see a lot of these little triangle-y things, trying to give the game a bit of like visual identity, so it's recognizable when you see something like, oh, that's from the Bazaar. This is just, I don't know, a lucky coin, got a little crown thingy. Just different examples, trying to figure out what should a coin look like. It's very possible that these look different depending on the class that's playing them. You know, maybe the little robot engineer dude will use Bitcoin. Maybe this one is for more like a futuristic, like, I don't know, space hunter or something, or like an engineer coin, because on his world they use these triangle-y things, you know, like a more traditional crown thing. I will get so sued if I use this one, but I do like how it looks. Definitely not going to use that one though. It looks too much like Hearthstone, but it is nice. This one's very bizarre looking. But yeah, just different examples of coins, trying to figure out, you know, what's a good default to start with. And the other thing that will be fairly common in the game that we had to figure out is card backs. What do we make card backs look like? What we basically did is we had the artists try to draft the most like simple default card back. So we didn't want any fancy ones. We just wanted the very simple like default options, so that when you look at that card back, you think, okay, that is the Bazaar card back. That's the one that's going to be in the game most often, or on all the new accounts. That's what people are going to be using. So we had a lot of examples for this, all of which again look like the logo more or less, right? We got a little orange gem things, got little pointy things. So I'm a big fan of how these turned out. This is more like circle. We got this, and again, like keep in mind, we're not trying to make these look special or exciting necessarily. They should look clean. They should represent the game. They should look like the game, basically. And then the fancy card backs are the ones that you unlock, you know, as you play or spend money. I've got a blue one here, which is pretty nice. Red. I like this one a lot. I like the idea of adding a third highlight color, like adding blue here does make it pop a lot more. So anyway, there's just like examples of things we're running through, trying to figure out, you know, aesthetically, how do we want the game to look? What's going to be optimal. It's not just art that we're focusing on, though. The team is ahead of schedule on the development of, you know, the actual build itself. What I can do right now is basically log in to 2 different accounts anywhere in the world, have them play against each other. If anybody disconnects, it reconnects. You can hop back in. There's only like 20 cards in the game, so you can't really play it, but the mechanics work as intended. So I figure what I'll do is show that to you guys because it can't hurt. Keep in mind, this is not what the game at all is going to look like. This is just to make sure the mechanics work. So it's like the first thing we have in Unity. You can launch these. So I'm just launching it on 2 accounts right now, Reynad 1, Reynad 2. So I'll invite Reynad 1, accept the invite. We're doing like vampire versus wizard, fight. We just kind of recreated the rough little technical demo board that we had before. And yeah, I mean, this is like pretty nice because I get to just test the mechanics now. So, you know, we can play cards. The numbers change accurately. Cards work as intended. You can buy whatever it is you need to buy. Pick up the coin. I can pick up that. I can attack for 1. 1 to 19. I guess the hero portrait on the other guy's wrong, but everything works as intended, which is important. The cards move between the zones correctly. I can look at my opponent's deck. I can look at their discard pile, see what they've bought. I can look at my own deck, see what's in there. So everything like functionally is working really, really smoothly, which is great. So next thing we're going to do is basically populate this with a bunch of cards. Once we've populated it with a bunch of cards, we'll be able to test, you know, other strategies. We'll be able to actually work on the gameplay, the design, and make sure that the cards in the game are fun, make sure that they're interesting to play with, and make sure that they kind of adhere to that archetype design that I talked about earlier. I'm not sure if we'll do the 3 macro archetype type of design, or if we do like little archetype modules where we have like little 10 card archetypes, but like a lot of them. Maybe a mixture of the two. Really, what we have to do is just populate those with 1 million cards, get a lot of people playing, and then just grind like 1,000 games until we figure out what's fun, what's not, how do we want to build the game, things like that. So cards have different drop rates already. In the spreadsheet, I can manipulate drop rates. I can add cards to the sheet that work with every mechanic currently in the game. It doesn't dynamically populate the game yet. Like if I add a card to the spreadsheet, it doesn't automatically get added to this build, but that will be the case very soon. So I'll be able to update the spreadsheet. 15 minutes later, we go in, the card's already in the game for testing. So that'll be really good. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Things are moving along well. There's too few cards in this build right now to actually play, but things move between zones correctly, and that's the important thing. Stuff is where it's supposed to be, which is awesome. We'll add hero powers in here as well eventually, and then, yeah, it should be good. But yeah, it's coming along. So I just wanted to give you guys this quick update video to show you where we are at. Thanks for supporting the game. Thank you for continuing to ask questions. If anything comes to mind, or if you guys have ideas, shoot them down here in the comments or on the Play the Bazaar subreddit. It's r/PlayTheBazaar. It's Play the Bazaar on everything. On the subreddit, on Twitter, whatever social media platform. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you keep, just tell your friends about the game, get people excited. Again, I'm aiming to have the beta be out at the end of next year, at the end of 2019. And then we'll probably try to time a launch in between expansions of other popular card games. So probably go for most likely like a February 2020 release, something like that. But you'll be able to play the beta before then for sure. So one of the most popular questions that's been getting asked is, how can you guys still support the game, still get into the beta now that the Indiegogo campaign is over? And I just want to let you know there will be an opportunity to. We're going to get in-game currency pre-order thing up on the website. So if you want to buy in-game currency ahead of time, you basically get into the beta, and that'll be a great way to support the game and the development efforts, moving forward. But yeah, thanks for paying attention. Thanks for your interest, and I will see you guys soon with another update video. All right, bye.